How's that?
Looks good. Okay. Welcome to the Herkimer Central School District Board of Education special meeting, Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021. First on the list is the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the list is public comment. Due to the current circumstances in our community regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, our Board of Education meetings are being conducted virtually. Because of this, members of the public who wish to submit a comment for the Board of Education meeting had the opportunity to email Emily Popek prior to the meeting. With that being said, there was one public comment. I'm going to read this directly from the email. Good evening. My name is Mark Blask. I am the boys varsity basketball coach here at Herkimer and have been for the past 5 years. Thank you for the opportunity to provide input on one of tonight's agenda items, whether to allow basketball this year. First, I understand and appreciate all the safety decisions you all have had to make this past year. As mayor of Little Falls, I know firsthand the impact and weightiness of those decisions. None of us were supplied with a how to proceed during a pandemic handbook last March. We have all done our level best. You should be commended for the work you have put into date in keeping students safe. My input tonight is clear and direct. I fully support basketball being played this year at Herkimer Central School. I base that on the following. The numbers in Herkimer County have been trending in the right direction over a month. The 7-day rolling positivity average is below 2%. Yesterday, there were 5 positive cases in the county, which sits in stark contrast to the 120 cases from 5 weeks ago. The coaches will ensure strict compliance with all safety measures, from mandatory masks to proper spacing. We understand what is at stake and will make sure all safety guidelines are strictly followed. Please trust the coaches. Lastly, this is incredibly important to our student athletes, especially our seniors. One of the many great parts about coaching Herkimer basketball is the family type atmosphere we have. Trust me, it is not like that in most schools. Basketball is an opportunity for us to talk about school and life and everything in between. For a senior class that has been deprived of so much, starting with the loss of last year's spring sports, we need to get them back in the team setting as soon as possible. Thank you for taking the time to read this. I apologize for lengthening the special meeting. No one likes short meetings more than I do. This is important. Please let the kids play. Respectfully submitted, Mark Blask. There was no other public comments, so I will move to approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion for that? Diane, second. Rich? All those in favor? 6-0. We'll make mention that Michelle Gilbert is running late. Next on the list is business reports.
There are 2 items under the business report to award the capital outlay projects. One is for day automation and the other is for Rick. I'm looking for a motion on the day automation capital project award.
Got a motion on that? Scott, second. Diane, any discussion on that item?
What is the day automation seems to be security stuff?
Security stuff. They do stuff with our cameras. They also do controls for our heating and cooling systems. So they're a control systems company and they do some data security stuff. Not data, but security like alarms and things like that.
They talked about adding to existing stuff. So were they our provider before?
They are now. We're shifting to them from Johnson Controls for a lot of areas other than the fire alarm system, which will still be Johnson Controls.
But there's no issues with them taking over what we previously have here.
That's been the plan through the capital projects. So we've been awarding them the controls, and as we do work at each of the buildings and put in new systems, the new systems are being taken over by day. The old systems are Johnson Controls, and we'll get to the point where we're all day at some point, probably in the next 3 years.
Okay.
That was the plan.
Anything else on that item?
Anything else?
All those in favor? 6-0.
Looking for a motion on the capital outlay project resolution for the MORIC. This is for computer equipment.
So we get a motion. Rich, second. Diane? Any discussion on that item? All those in favor? 6-0.
This was all work at the high school. Next year, you'll see almost like this exact same work as next year's capital outlay project at the elementary school. Okay. The next item on the list is under my reports is high-risk sports, particularly basketball, which is scheduled to begin March 1st. Look for a motion on the Herkimer Central School District high-risk sports safety plan that you need to approve tonight, and then we can discuss it.
Okay. Can we get a motion on that?
Do you want to wait for Michelle to get here? Do we need to wait for Michelle to get here?
Well, I think you need to wait for Michelle to vote,
Right.
because we're at,
But should she?
No, I haven't heard anything about whether or not she's.
Sorry, I gave you guys a copy of what I was going to say, so I can start with that before we move it.
She's joining right now. Look at that. There she is. Hey, Michelle.
So how does it proceed? We're going to look at the safety plan.
Right, you guys have got the safety plan.
Yep.
And then essentially I'm looking for a motion to approve the safety plan, and then if you need, we can discuss it. If you want to make amendments, there might be some things you can do, but some things probably we can't do tonight. It's really kind of an up or down vote on high-risk sports basketball.
Right. So, but I mean, when we take a motion to vote, or we take a vote on the safety plan, that's a vote for basketball.
So what's on the agenda is the high-risk sports plan for basketball. That's all we're approving tonight is that. The board has to approve each sport separately. We could do it in a packet with all of them, but you'll get each of these, you'll get something like this for each sport. So in March, when we do fall 2, then we'll have football and cheer and potentially volleyball. There's those, and then there's the low risk spring sports, which we'll probably do in March too. And those you don't need a plan for. Only the high risk. Each high risk sport the board has to approve. Each one.
Okay.
And they're a little bit different because there's each of the sports has some subtle differences. Most of the stuff's the same, but there are some subtle differences in each of the sports.
And so we'll have the opportunity to talk prior to taking a vote on it under discussion, right?
On this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, usually what happens is, and this is just technical, we could be less formal, but usually you move it, second it, and then there's a discussion like that, like anytime. There's not, but you can table it, it's like 1,000 options once you move it.
Right.
Is that?
Okay. So we get a motion to approve.
Everybody's here. Do we want to have somebody, did somebody want to move? To approve high-risk sports basketball.
So this is the vote to approve or not approve the basketball, correct?
Did somebody have a motion?
This is to vote to
Correct.
talk about it.
High-risk, it's item A, high-risk sports basketball.
Okay.
Well, if we prove
We
it,
need a motion to approve.
once you move it and somebody seconds it, there's no vote
Okay.
yet.
Diane
Then we
has
discuss
voted to approve it.
Right. So we,
Okay.
I
And
am
Michelle seconded.
voting to discuss,
discuss it,
make
yep.
a motion, and looks like Michelle.
Second, Michelle,
Diane moved, Michelle seconded to
discuss.
to approve the plan. That doesn't mean that you vote yet. That's just so we can discuss it. Robert's Rules of Order. That's it. There's no.
Okay.
So I'll go through what I sent you guys. I'll take publicly. I'll say what I told you guys in the email today about where I and the administrative team stand, and then I'll let you guys take it from there, and then we can have further discussion. And then at some point, if you're ready to vote, we can vote. I'm not going to repeat my full statement from last week about my and your administrative team's recommendation about the initiation of high-risk indoor sports, but I stand by my statement and our administrative team's position that it is not advisable at this time. Initiation of high-risk indoor sports jeopardizes the stability of in-person instruction in our schools by mixing cohorts and reducing mitigation protocols, as well as bringing outside of district cohorts into our facilities and mixing these cohorts with our students and staff populations in a low mitigation environment. My job is to inform you of these risks and to tell you that we should be prioritizing in-person instruction over taking such risks. Another part of my concern about initiating a three-season approach was the detrimental impact on the amount of time we will be allotting to spring sports, whose entire season was canceled last year by forcing 3 seasons into 1 season. However, my efforts to sway other schools to my line of thinking have met with resistance, and the political lobby for football and basketball holds sway. I cannot offer you a plan which increases the length of the spring season without leaving the county, which we do not think is advisable either. The schools in our county are committed to the 3-season plan. It takes a commitment from others to implement interscholastic athletic plans. I'm saddened that I could not get other schools to commit to a plan to move forward in the safest way possible, which offer as equitable as possible grade level athletic opportunities, but I do understand the overwhelming desire to return to as much normalcy as possible. That said, our school board, the governing body of the school, may be divided on the issue of initiating high-risk sports, as are most school boards in the county and state. We all want to have our kids competing in sports again. We all want to return to normal. The drive is so intense for this that all component districts in the county have either agreed or indicate tentatively they plan to initiate high-risk indoor sports under the 3-season county plan with varsity and JV basketball beginning March 1st if the metrics allow. At this time, the county 14-day positivity rate is around 2%, has been under 3% for about 10 days, and the county will likely give the go-ahead on Friday, February 26th for county schools to initiate high-risk sports if these trends continue. Now, I will note that the last 2 days it's been over 3 again, but it's a weighted average, and there were like about almost 1,200 tests, I think, on Sunday, and only 5 or 6 positives. So that will weigh heavily in keeping the average low for a while, for sure, even if the daily rates are above 3 with low testing, because the last 2 days there's only been around 200 tests, so it takes a while for that to offset. Mr. Crandall asked me to have a plan developed for implementation of basketball for board consideration. That plan was uploaded to the BOE agenda today. The plan was developed regionally with other component districts, and Dr. Grace has given her approval to other schools, and we will have her review the plan and sign off later this week, should you approve it. We are preparing high-risk sports in fall 2 at the March 17th BOE meeting, along with a plan for an outdoor drama production, as well as our spring season coaching appointments. If the board approves the basketball plan, we will amend staffing to include coaches for boys and girls varsity basketball and JV basketball. We close by saying that the administrative team is fully supportive of interscholastic athletics and want to provide as many opportunities for our students as we can without risking in-person instruction. And we will work to make whatever sports and activities the board approves as safe as possible for our school community. With that, I will turn it over to you guys.
So my first question is, what admin team are you?
You want to go around the room, or?
What are you talking about when you mean you and your admin team decided that it's not, that we shouldn't move forward?
My admin team, meaning everybody. Meaning I've talked with your middle school principal, your high school principal, your athletic director, and we're all on the same page. Okay.
So with that being said, Herkimer County has one of the strictest guidelines to follow when it comes to COVID. Okay. We're now taking it a step further. You as a school, us as a school, are saying we should maybe take it a step further than what Herkimer County has already implemented. You've got Herkimer County that is telling us that it's okay to go forward with basketball and high-risk sports. Dr. Amy Grace is telling you that it's okay to move forward, as she has approved other plans for other schools. But we're still sitting here debating whether or not this should actually be done. We can't get an extended season for softball or baseball by not playing basketball, because all the rest of the schools have committed to the sport or 3-season plan. So as a school, I feel like it's our duty to provide every opportunity to the students that are available. It is the parents' duty to decide what is safe and what is not safe for those individual students. By taking away this choice, you're taking away the parents' choice to make whether or not it's safe.
You know, and I was kind of going along the same lines. And, you know, we've all waited for the state to give us approval, and then it flowed down to the counties. And then really it's flowed down to Herkimer County as being the last one on board. Now they're on board, and as she said, we have, you know, our doctor saying it's good. Yeah, I just think there's no reason not to. And I don't see no reason lately. Obviously there's reasons not to, but there's always reasons. And some of the things in the email to us, Rob, are not concerning, but, you know, we're saying it's going to increase. That, you know, it could destabilize, or it will destabilize. When we're, you know, there's potential there for sure, but we don't know this, and we don't know that other school boards have struggled with this decision, right?
I know that they voted. I do know the votes.
You know the votes
Of several other boards, yes, and they're not unanimous. You don't think that I know that? I wouldn't put that in the email if they haven't struggled with it.
I don't know.
5-2 in several districts. I'm not going to say that it's. What I said was that it's not been unanimous. It's been divided.
Yeah, that's fine. We just got to present the right message and the accurate message, and I think Randy summed it up. I mean, she was going to say everything I was going to say is, you know, to keep taking that next level of restriction, that's kind of maddening to me. Like, you know, I get where you guys are coming from, and listen, we're all proud of exactly what you guys have done all year long, but it's time to take the next step. Okay.
So since I didn't get a good chance to speak last time, I thought I'd just say a couple words now. I am really on the fence about this. I think this is very hard. This is a very hard decision. I appreciate the coach's letter. I didn't know we had it coming, and thank you, Brian, for reading that. I very much appreciate his spirit of, you know, following the guidelines that Department of Public Health is putting forward. I think that's important, and I do have a concern that we will have students that are not on the basketball team that still have to wear a mask in school and 6-foot distance, and they're going to school every other day. And then we have basketball players that are on a team that, you know, so forth and so on. And so one of my concerns is the enforcement of the mask wearing, just to be cognizant of the rules that the doctor is signing off on. The doctor is signing off on masks being worn, and there was a sentence in there, unless it's not practical, or I don't have it in front of me now, but we all know it was kind of you know, so it could be interpreted different ways, whether or not mask is 100% mandatory. So that's my concern, is that the athletes are going to have a different experience in the month of March in school. I do understand that we do need to move forward, and this is our first step. And also, I feel a little trepidation. This is the first time, besides when we open school in September, this is our next first step of back to normal. And so I have some trepidation about it. And I'd like to know what somebody else thinks.
Well, we did take a step forward in the fall, and we didn't have a concern there, so.
Yeah, and we enforce the mask wearing on our students. So I'm not sure, and I don't know that we should be penalizing the kids that want to play basketball because they have the opportunity to play basketball and other kids might not. Like I feel like every child should have the opportunity to do whatever it is that they love to do. And I don't think as a school, when everybody else is saying to move forward, that we should be saying no. It's not going to stop them from commingling. It's not going to stop them from playing.
It is a condensed season, and that is, it'd be nice if it wasn't. But it is the way to get most of our students something that they enjoy, right? So now you're including basketball instead of excluding it. We get to that spring play would be great. So, I mean, seems the way to go to me.
I mean, I think, and I sense a lot of anger, and I don't have any inside of me. I want kids to do things. I want to provide opportunities to kids. Your whole administrative team does. It's not as though we don't. We're all really on the same page. I know we're really only disagreeing over indoor high-risk sports. I want to do as much as I possibly can within what I think is safe. And I know that we can do what the county tells us to do. I know we have developed a plan under the county guidelines, and that we can carry that plan out, and that we will do it with fidelity, and that's what we've done all year long. I'm telling you what my opinion is and what I think where we should go. I also know that without reservation, I said, if you decide to do differently, we will, as an administrative team, carry it out with fidelity, and we'll do it well. And we're not going to shirk on it. We're gonna do it well. But I am entitled to my opinion, and you guys are all entitled to your opinion. And you guys, as a governing body, can direct us to do something, and then we will do it, and we'll do it well. And I think you can count on that. It's not as though we're going to carry it out. If that's what you decide, that's what we'll do.
Well, that's part of my not issue. There's no anger. I get frustrated because we do have to go ahead and we're putting up roadblocks. But part of my reasoning is because you guys have done so well, you're going to continue to do well. So I don't have any reservation in that. Mm-hmm. I mean, that comes from confidence in you guys. It doesn't come anywhere from anger.
I just want you to it's not I don't want it to be us, like the administrative team against, it's not really that. We really are all on the same team. We just want to get to a place where we all feel comfortable doing what we're doing, and that we're not taking too big a risk. And like I said in my statement, we'll carry it out, and we'll do it well. I don't want to have people be anxious and anxiety about it. I think I want to do it with open eyes if we go down this path. And I think, like I said, we will carry it out, and we will operate under the safety guidelines that Dr. Grace and the DOH say will work, and we'll do our best to make it not disrupt instruction. And I think, everything is okay until it's not. We can go down this path, and it could be okay. And 10 schools go down this path, and it'll be okay. And one school will go down, and it could be a bad thing, and it could be just coincidence. Like, it might not be anything anybody's doing. It's just bad timing.
It's life, though, right? And as Diane said, we were all very hesitant. Who wasn't waiting for the shoe to drop when school opened, right? And it, when the cases started coming, and then we saw how you guys handled everything, it just kind of became status quo. And things have been fantastic, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be going forward.
And I have no doubt in my administrative team's ability to carry it out and to work with any issues that arise from doing that. I just think that it's okay for us to have a disagreement, and that you guys can make a different decision, and then we will carry it out. There's no animosity on our part, and we will carry it out with fidelity. We want opportunities for kids too, and we want our kids to be safe. I think we all want that. I think we should coalesce around what we want, what we all agree to, and then if you guys have a different decision than what the administrative team is, that's okay. That happens sometimes.
Rob, can you touch base on, I know that, and I don't know if I missed it, but the gym's being worked on currently, so we don't have the main gym. Would practices be, if we went forward, would practices be between the Aux gym and the elementary?
I think that's the only way we can do it. I mean, the details of practice schedule get worked out after today, but I think it would probably be 2 practices in the Aux gym and 2 practices at the elementary gym. And then once you get through the first 7 days, because of the condensed season, I think it's going to be games every other day, roughly. So there's really not going to be a huge amount of practice time before games start. And then once games start, and the season moves on, you got to have rest days. I don't know how that'll all work out, but we'll make it work.
And I did have a question, and I don't know if it needs to be done now, or after we vote, but it was the return to play protocol. I was looking at there's 2 different documents
But those came from Dr. Grace.
Yeah, so, but I was,
You're really not approving the return to play. You're only returning the plan document. Those were just other documents.
all right, so maybe we can discuss that after.
We can.
If we approve, if it's.
So what you're approving tonight is just the return to play.
Okay.
And basically, you're just authorizing us to carry out high-risk basketball under the guidelines of DOH. It's not as though you have to carry out any of the procedures. That's all on us.
Rob, I had one thing to say. I had a parent contacted me from a different school district today, and they just wanted to thank the school for allowing these kids from K through 6 to go every day, and then the other kids to go 2 days a week, because they really haven't seen teachers. Their students really haven't seen them. They've been virtual for the majority of the year, and they're just thankful that that Herkimer is able to see these kids every day. And I just wanted to say that I think that if this were an outdoor sport we would be approving, I'd feel differently. But because this is an indoor sport, I just want to see these kids still keep going to school. And that's just my opinion, but I just wanted to throw it out there.
So next year, when we're possibly told that we can open fully, is Herkimer going to be the only one to decide not to, just to be safe? I mean,
I don't think that's really
concerns me a little bit, because I feel like we should be taking steps forward and we're not, and it's concerning.
Well, the state and the federal government have not really changed any of the guidelines about social distancing. So if you can't, until they change the guidelines about social distancing and quarantining, and they are probably going to change all those things, just you can't physically get kids into the school and fit them in at this point. They have to change the rules before we can make those steps forward. But if they change the rules, and certainly I'm asking the same questions of our DOH about those questions, like how do I get 7th and 8th grade in potentially well, the only way I can do it is if I can reduce the 3 feet. But if I reduce the 3 feet and increase class size, but then the Department of Health is going to quarantine people that are all in a room instead of maybe using seating. So all of those rules have to change. So it's a complex series of rules that have to change in order for us to be able to.
You're missing my point. All I'm saying is, if come August, New York State and local DOH says no more rules, we can go ahead and move forward to full in-person school. I feel like with the way that we're moving forward with sports, you guys are going to be hesitant again to open. Like, I feel like we need to be taking steps forward, not taking steps back. If Herkimer County and New York State is saying, yes, we can do this, it's okay to do this, we should be doing this.
Well, I think what's not fair, though, is that I didn't say we wouldn't do any high-risk sports. I said we would do football, cheer, and we would do the spring sports. So it's not as though we didn't take a step. I just didn't want to take 3 steps. I wanted to take 1 step. So it's really a question of how many steps I wanted to take, or I thought was prudent to take initially. And I didn't think that moving to high-risk indoor sports as right after we came off of a fairly major outbreak in the county was probably probably the most prudent move. But has it been okay by DOH, and do we have a plan to operate? Yeah, so we can do it. I just said I didn't think it was prudent. If they said to me tomorrow that you can put 40 kids on a bus and you don't have to social distance and all they have to do is wear a mask, we would be doing it as quickly as we could get it all scheduled, and that would maximize in-person instruction, which is what we want to do. So I don't think it's really fair for you to compare them changing the rules so that we can have more kids in school and say we wouldn't do that. This is a different thing, because when we open up high-risk sports and then there's quarantines associated with that, that is going to reduce in-person instruction. So I don't really think that's a fair comparison.
But the point is, if we're gonna say we're gonna listen to science and the experts, then we got to do it all the time and not just when it fits what we want it to do. So like Brandy's point is, we're being told it's okay. Let's trust in the fact that we have a doctor on board and a county health department on board.
Right.
I'm not speaking for Brandy, but I was kind of thinking that's the way she was heading with that.
And I got that sense from you that was at least the opinion I saw on the board, and that Brian directed us to develop a plan that's compliant with those safety protocols, and we've done that. And if we those protocols, and there's really that's okay, right? I mean, that can be, you can have something be safe under the protocols, but it could still be, to my mind, it's not as much about safety as it is about disrupting the operational integrity of the building and putting us into more quarantines and closing down a certain. So it's not as though I'm saying it's not safe. I'm saying it could be disruptive.
Under the current rules and guidelines, it could be disruptive. I don't disagree with that.
Okay, so that's where. So it's not as though I'm saying we can't do it because it's not safe. What I'm really saying is it's going to be disruptive. Potentially. It has potential for disruption. Do I think a 4 or 5 week basketball season is worth that? That's what it amounts to. And the 4 or 5, you're making me repeat my stuff because they're already starting to see, well, kids aren't going to be there, that April break. So how long is that? Like, is the season actually going to be in the end?
Yeah, but like you say, you can't.
I get it.
People commit to sports. Who's
so
going anywhere?
I don't think it's a great plan, but it's the only plan that we really have. So it's hard for me to recommend something that's not really very well designed to you guys. And I don't really think the 3-season plan is very well designed. I don't think it's going to be great for kids. There's a lot of issues that I have with it. And I don't think the bang for the buck is really there. But you guys can.
What we got.
You guys can. And if you guys do, here's our plan. This is the plan that the rest of the schools are using in the county. Essentially, there's some minor differences, but you approve it and we do it. And it's going to be okay. Or you don't, and then we don't. And like those are that's what you guys are. You guys are the governing body. You guys get to make the law, and then I get to carry it out.
So I didn't see much difference in the county plan than ours. Is there something that I missed?
No, there's just some minor things. Probably under transportation, we might be a little bit different than other schools, but there's not really anything else. You can't really
sports on this.
Well, some schools are going to do skill and drill, but there's not going to be any competition. So I don't really view it as an interscholastic sport. If we want to do something like that, we can probably do it, but we don't really need to worry about it tonight. We can do it because it's really just it's almost like intramurals what they're talking about. Okay. We could do drills and skills now if it was one kid per basket per one ball, that kind of thing. So there isn't.
So that doesn't have to be under this approval.
No, because as far as I know, that's going to change because everything changes every minute. There's been no suggestion that there be any interscholastic modified competition. So to me, this plan is for modified or for competition between schools, interscholastic competition. It's not for initiating some sort of internal activity. And we could do that anytime we wanted if we wanted to try to get something started. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Is there any other discussion on this item?
I just have a question, and if it was said and I missed it, I apologize. If we go ahead with basketball and we do basketball, football, and spring sports, are they overlapping at all?
Yes. They overlap by a week in April.
So if you have a senior...
April break week is...
All right, so like if you have a senior boy who wants to play basketball, football, and baseball, are they able to do that?
They will, but it'll be interesting. They'll have about three and a half weeks of overlap. A week of basketball and football will overlap. And there's rules. Usually you can't count practices in football. They'll probably get an exemption from it. But you can get 3 practices, I think, from the prior season or from the other sport that count in the other one. And we can probably work it out, but they may miss a game because they won't have enough practices in football to play the first game. That happens sometimes when you make a championship game. So, right. And then in baseball, I think is about 10 days of overlap between baseball and football.
Can they double up practice sessions on a day? So, for instance, if you're on a
off really day, not healthy.
Well, yeah. But we're in this situation where sometimes just being present could count as a practice. So, I
think while you're on the other team, but I would have to double check with Ms. Paraguay that I think while you're on the other team, you can only get 3 practices.
while you're involved in another sport.
I think so.
Those are things that will work themselves out.
Right.
So that kind of leads me to another question that
You
I was
can't-
actually having this discussion with my own daughter is the schoolwork. Like, obviously the kids have to do their schoolwork and now you're going to throw all these practices in. Are we still keeping track of their grades like we were before?
We did that in the fall with sports. Yes.
Everything's still going to be this. I mean, homework club if they need it and they can't play if they're failing. That's all still going to be the same.
It's all the eligibility policy is going to be enforced just like it would be any other time.
Okay.
Any other discussion, or should we vote? So, Rich had to step out.
Brian,
Go ahead, Diane.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
I have my list. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Where did we land with this plan with spectators? The state guidance
Spectators.
says, okay, so is that in our plan written? Because I glanced through it an hour ago and I couldn't find it. Did I just miss it, or?
It's for indoor sports, no spectators. Outdoor sports, two per player.
But that's a county thing, though. That's not a state thing. State allows spectators.
Exactly.
So if you look under
That's where I
spectators,
was question. So there will be no spectators. And
Correct.
is that going to include the media? Like a newspaper report?
Usually we do let media. We do let media. We let media in the fall. They're supposed to contact us in advance and make sure that there's space. But if there was a press of media, then we might have an issue. I don't think that would be a problem though this year.
Championships or anything like that, right?
No, I think there'll be people, but it'll be the Telegram reporter will be here. The ODY got the WKTV might come on occasion. UTR comes on occasion.
And this is only regional. It's different. There's different schools are participating with because it's regional.
Yeah, so the schools that we'll be competing with are all the Herkimer County schools, which are some different ones than we typically would. Like Town of Webb is in Herkimer County, UAS, ODY, like some of the smaller schools. It'll be an interesting competition.
CVA too, right?
CVA too. Yep. But I think they're going to be with us in winter and fall too, but I think they may go back to CBL for wrestling and for some of the spring sports.
Okay.
So, and that's the complication too. I mean, many counties are doing different seasons, like completely different seasons. So some of the winter seasons have gone to March 20. There's been all kinds of changes at various counties. That was one of the trouble with me trying to find another set of schools to play with outside of the county because the dates are all different.
Oh.
So some schools are going to have, like Madison County, I think is going to have like 3 or 4 weeks of basketball right now, and then they're going to go to the traditional schedule of fall 2 and then spring. So everybody's doing it a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
But Oneida County, I think maybe a few schools have just started playing some basketball games in the last day or two. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Should we vote now? So, like I said, Rich is on his phone. He had to leave. He had to go travel. So I'm just going to ask him what his vote is, and then we'll go yay and nay. Rich, what's your vote?
I know it's just a yes or no, but I just wanted to say, I'm a sports guy and I love sports, and this was a hard decision for me. I have a lot of concern about 3 sports in 3 months. I think it's increased chance for injury, and I think ultimately we're really putting the spring sport that already lost a season in a bad situation where they're losing more time. Ultimately, I want to give the kids the opportunity to play, so my vote is going to be yes.
Okay, so we have 1 yes. So all those in favor? So the vote is 5, and all those in not in favor to 2. So we have 5-2. Winter sports for basketball will proceed.
I'm looking for a motion to amend the staffing to include the winter coaching appointments. And Susie will upload it after you move it.
And Michelle, the second. Yep, sorry.
So,
Scott and Michelle.
Yep.
Any discussion on that item? Who are the coaches?
I think if you wait like 1 minute, you're going to see the staffing and you can take a look.
Oh, okay.
Would it be on the
It'll be right. She's gonna upload it. Susie, are you set yet? Okay.
Not yet. Give me a second.
Okay. Let us know when it's set, and then you can take a look and we can talk about it if you have questions.
Sure thing. Sure thing.
I mean, I can give you. It's Coach Blask for varsity boys. It's Coach. Gosh, it's slipping my head now. The PE teacher, Murphy, Coach Murph. Sorry, and then Shep's varsity and Scalise's JV. Girls. Should be, yeah.
Any discussion on that item? Rich, what's your vote? Oh, go ahead.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, Ben.
Yes. This is just a very quick question. So I assume there's going to be a special orientation having to do with COVID procedures for these coaches, even though they're experienced. They're going to be signing off on new procedures. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we did this in the fall too. So Miss Paraguay will have a coaches meeting like she ordinarily would, but then they go through all the protocol lists and the plan and the rules that they have to enforce.
The staffing's updated in the agenda now.
Thank you, Susie.
You're welcome.
So we have a first and a second. I'm going to ask Mr. Lewis what his vote is on that.
Yes.
So we have 1 yes. All those in favor? 7-0.
7.
Yes. So next on the list is the meeting evaluation by Mr. Patucci.
I was pretty anxious coming in here, but you know, because I didn't want it to come across like, you know, there was, you know, us against you guys. It's good to have a discussion. I think a lively discussion's healthy, right? We trust, but we always can have, you know, back and forth. I think everybody had an opportunity to speak, you know, what they had on their mind, and it was great. That's it.
Okay.
You good for me?
Good.
I move to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the appointment of a particular person.
So we have a motion. Can we get a second? Diane? All those in favor? Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
With 7-0. Rich, I don't think you, are you going to join the executive session?
Yeah, I'm like 2 minutes away from where I gotta be, so I'll be joining in about 2 minutes.
Sounds good. We'll reconvene.
We'll reconvene like 5 then.
Yep, sounds good. 6:50. Great. Thank you all.
We still